So I think with that, I've taken us back to our normal time. I'm going to do, what I'll do now is I'll invite, and I apologize, the stage is a little smaller than than I expected. So I want to invite our other three speakers to come forward. We'll have some microphones in the audience. If there are any questions for any of the speakers that myself or anybody other speakers, happy to have them answered. If you don't ask questions, I've got questions to ask them. So please don't be bored by me speaking more. Please ask your questions. Oh, we good. We got one right here, and we got microphones. Perfect.
Okay, my question's for Tom. I was wondering for candidates that are testing in Spanish, if that's something that's going to be listed on their certifications or how that's going to be distinguished.
Yeah, awesome question. So when they certify under a Spanish exam, it will be denoted on their card and on VCO as Spanish. So it's highlighted that way. Thank you.
Other question for the audience? There's one. Sure.
Hi, how you doing? Is it Kenya?
Kenna.
Yeah. Yep.
My question is with computerized training. I had one of them simulators, and a lot of the older operators don't want to have anything to do with it, and they don't like the readout of pass-fail, and say it could come back to bite them if anything happened with the crane. How are you dealing with that?
Thank you. So you're specifically talking about like online trainings or digital trainings?
The simulator for the mobile crane.
Yeah.
That would be a great idea because the cranes are technology and labs and watching everything. But the older operators don't have
Yeah.
Testing.
No, absolutely. So especially as we're talking about like virtual reality and augmented reality, it's still a very new area. So we're seeing a ton of benefits for VR, right? People love it. It's new, it's novel. When they can do it digitally, do it on the computer, it's more accessible. But we are absolutely hearing from, especially the older generation, that it may not be accessible to them. So what we always recommend is if you do go that route, that you have alternative training means, whether that be classroom training, whether that be hands-on training should always be included if you're using any of these digital trainings. But yeah, we are absolutely hearing some of that feedback. And VR itself poses a lot of challenges, especially when it comes to, it can make people dizzy. It can, it may not be accessible for some people. Some people get headaches when they see it. So it's absolutely not a one-size-fits-all solution. So we always advocate for having sort of alternative training methods. Thank you.
I'll have another one for Kenna then. So I know you're involved in a lot of research with other industries as well, and that previously too for NSC. I'm just curious, if you've got any off-the-cuff insights between the crane industry and kind of the other industries that you've seen related to safety. Like, is it comparable, totally different than what you've typically seen in other industries, or are there a lot of crossover kind of things?
Yeah. So. In general, when it comes to safety, I would say it's fairly comparable. When it comes to technology, like I said, we're seeing, that there's not as much of the uptake within the crane industry itself, but there is a very heavy willingness. So one of the questions we asked was, are you willing to trial these technologies and use these technologies? A vast majority said yes, that they are more than willing to. So yeah, in general, I think there is a huge willingness. I think, as far as, I've been very impressed by, even today, just hearing about some of the safety measures that are in place. So I would say, from my perspective, the crane industry is really above a lot of the industries that we deal with. And in terms of technology, there is a lot of that willingness. So I'm excited to see where it goes from there.
TJ, could I add one more thing?
Okay.
We're working out, so thank you. I would just add in on the heat stress thing. That's something that's kind of it's always been around in the crane industry, and those of us who've operated cranes without air conditioning, you know, sitting there in the sun and you're not able to move because you can't swing the crane. You can open the couple windows and get the fan going, and that's about it. And so really, you know, how long are you going to leave someone in that environment, and what's the change out, and how do you go through that process? And as an industry, there's a lot of this stuff that technology, we can get indicators and fatigue indicators and some of that information that would be really helpful, so we know what we're exposing our individuals to. If they have air conditioning, it changes the story, you know, quite a bit. But there's a lot of the older cranes that don't have that.
Oh, got another question.
Tom, since Eric Fiddler threw you under the bus, I'll ask you the question concerning the lift director. Can you give insight as to what ASME has put in their bullet point list, maybe, of lift director qualifications?
Yeah, so I appreciate that opportunity. There's knowledge of rigging, knowledge of signal person items. There's different segments that they have to understand. They don't have to understand the full load chart kind of thing, but they need to be able to understand basic crane dynamics and that sort of thing. And then it gets into ground and gets into other items. So it's very much aligned with what CCO has lined out on their lift director elements, and like Washington State is in line with that too. So I will say that the qualification element does not have anything to do with their physical capability or anything like that. I know the operators have the whole physical requirement. The lift directors don't have anything like that.
And I got a question for Nate, just out of curiosity for myself too. So as we do some of this workforce research related to the crane industry specific, and we're looking at, you know, again, overall, like what messages, what things are, you know, about the industry. And then now you're doing further research about, you know, specific potentially similar roles and things like that. Is there work that's been done? Have you been involved in work in other industries that have been trying to do that, or have any idea about other things that are doing something similar to try to identify that kind of stuff?
No, that's a great question. And actually, no. So in some ways, this is a rather innovative project going on. Like, a lot of the data to do this sort of analysis is available, but like a lot of what we're doing right now is a pretty new and innovative thing that you know, I'm excited about. So as far as I know, it's not something, at least the way we're approaching it right now, it's not something that's super common. But as we're seeing up to this point, like, we're getting some really interesting insights, and there's a lot more to come. So.
Okay. No, good. That's good to know. And then I'll also add for both the work that we're doing with NSC, with Kenna, and with Humro, with Nate, when they mentioned that we're doing SME feedback and things like that, if you'd like to be involved in that, please let me know. We've got a survey that's already out with the NSC that's getting, she's talking about the hierarchy controls. And so that new online resource that we're talking about, I mean, it's going to have technology in there, but the idea is that there's going to be a whole bunch of other controls, including policies and procedures and just trainings and things like that, that will be available for, especially for those who aren't doing that kind of stuff. We want to know what's being most, you know, what's most advantageous for, again, heat stress. Is there stuff that's already being going on in this industry that we can put into this new online tool that will be able to share it with other people to say, like, you should at least be doing this much, right? Let alone then you get to the technology part, which could be, you know, advanced steps. And then similarly with what Nate was talking about, we are going to have a survey that's going to go out very soon that's going to really talk about, it'll give you some examples of what those skills are, and then related to certain roles, and then ask you to rank what that looks like, so that in your opinion, again, as an SME, somebody who works in this industry, probably a lot of you who are crane operators yourself, you can rank those things and be like, yeah, I don't care if they like to work outdoors or not, but I think they really need to be, you know, have great hand-eye coordination, or vice versa. Whatever it is, so we can get a sense from you. Again, we've got all the data, and this will show us scientifically what are important skills, what things comparatively to other jobs, but we also want to get the, you know, the perspective of those who are in this industry to say, yeah, but based on this is what we think is important. So again, that will help lead to a much more full report at the end of the day. So Matt will hopefully be available towards the end of this year, if not the beginning of next year. So I won't put him on the spot now, but that's what we're working on too, especially with the research, the safety research as well. Any other questions out there before I know we're holding you guys back from lunch? But I appreciate your time. Again, we'll have an evaluation that is going to go out. The survey will go out in the next few days here. Please take the time to give some feedback, give ideas if you have other speakers for next year. I really appreciate everybody's time, and can I have another round of applause for our speakers? Thank you, and have a great rest of the day and week.